Hi, everyone. It is National Infertility Awareness Week. This movement was founded in 1989 by Resolve, the National Infertility Association, and it is all about giving people a platform to share their stories, raise awareness, and spark real change. On today's episode, we get to hear from Rebecca Flick, the Chief External Affairs Officer for Resolve. Rebecca's journey with Resolve started in 2005 out of a passion to make a difference in the lives of others. And little did she know that soon she would personally find herself touched by infertility, becoming one of the many voices sharing her story and advocating for that support and change. Rebecca's openness about her experiences, combined with her unstoppable dedication to the cause, truly embodies the spirit of National Infertility Awareness Week and the mission of Resolve. We are incredibly grateful to Rebecca for her vulnerability as well as her insights and wisdom. And Resolve is just an amazing organization that started from lending support around a kitchen table and has grown beyond what could have ever been imagined. So we are so grateful for Resolve for this week, National Infertility Awareness Week. Please enjoy listening to this episode and stay tuned for tomorrow and the remainder of this week as we continue to highlight National Infertility Awareness Week.
Me, you, and who? Who knew it would take more than two people to have a baby? In a world where infertility is no longer a taboo topic, this podcast will take you through all the different aspects of surrogacy and egg donation through the lens of many who walk this journey in different ways. My name is Whitney Hall, and I am a two-time surrogate, now turned surrogacy coordinator for Egg Donor and Surrogate Solutions, the very agency I used when I chose to carry for two amazing families. With this podcast, it is our goal to help guide and support you as you learn about what it takes to grow a family in an alternative way, as well as hear inspiring and beautiful stories of how this path has changed lives forever. We can't wait for you to hear about just one more way happy families are created every day.
Hi, Rebecca. I'm so glad you're here.
Thanks for having me, Whitney. Appreciate
Um,
it.
oh my gosh, of course, of course. And I am just so grateful for your time, especially, just during this busy season as Resolve prepares for our big National Infertility Awareness Week, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But before we get there, I would love you're Rebecca. You are the Chief External Affairs Officer
Yes, very
for
fancy title.
very fancy title. But you work with a company or a nonprofit called Resolve. And for those who don't know what Resolve is, can you kind of just what is Resolve? What do you guys do?
Sure. So Resolve is the National Infertility Association. We are a national nonprofit and the largest patient advocacy group that does patient advocacy across the United States. And we can talk more about what advocacy is, but we also have support groups nationwide. And we started National Infertility Awareness Week in 1989. So we are an organization that believes that support matters, that people should have access to all family building options, and we can really reduce the stigma around everything that we face by raising awareness. And we were founded in 1974. So we are celebrating 50 years this year.
Oh my gosh, that's
And maybe
amazing.
your listeners don't even realize that Resolve started before the first IVF was ever performed. So there was a need before there was IVF and all of the amazing technologies that followed that. And we were founded by Barbara Eck, who was a nurse and had her own infertility struggles and wanted to find women like her to support each other. And she hosted the first Resolve support group around her kitchen table. And then we were incorporated as a nonprofit in 1975, and we're forever, ever grateful for Barbara Eck.
That's so amazing because I was going to say I was reading about those and I know Resolve's been around for so long, but I don't think I realized, wait, 1974.
Yes.
Of course, infertility has been a struggle
Forever.
forever. forever.
It's just
But like you
insane.
said, like this is before IVF, before, and has been such a taboo topic
Mm-hmm.
that nobody wanted to talk about. And then here comes Barbara. I mean, that's
Yes.
just amazing. So
Yes.
was Resolve, it started with just those support groups and then has since evolved. Can you tell me a little bit more about that evolution? And I know you mentioned advocacy, so I'd love to hear more about that.
Sure. So, um, it was founded in Massachusetts, and it started with support and education. For a long time, Resolve was the only resource that people had
Mm,
for patient education, as it's now called. It probably wasn't called that back
sure.
then. But now there's so many opportunities for people to learn about this side of reproductive health. And then in 2000, I'm going to say six, and I'm pretty sure it's 2006, 2005. Sorry, I should probably get
Okay.
this right. In 2005, the board of directors made a strategic move to move Resolve headquarters from Massachusetts to a location outside of Washington, D.C., because they wanted to focus on changing policy.
Wow.
And that's really when our advocacy really started to take off. Prior to that, we had been involved in getting state mandates passed. Massachusetts, where we were founded, has one of the strongest state mandates for insurance coverage in the country and still does. And we were slightly successful in other states around that time. But I joined Resolve in 2005.
Mm.
Um, and I am still younger than Resolve, and I will always be younger than Resolve, even though
There you
I've been
go.
around for 19 years. And it has been an honor and a privilege to have a front row seat at the way Resolve has grown and changed over the past two
Yeah.
decades, especially with advocacy and especially in awareness.
Absolutely. And I feel like, I mean, the industry has evolved so much. And it's funny when you think advocacy, I don't think people really think a lot about what does that actually mean when it comes to family building. What are
Mhm.
some of like those highlights that, just over the course of time that Resolve is kind of focused on, and what do people really need to be aware of?
So part of our mission is one of the favorite parts of our mission, especially for our president and CEO, Barb Colora, is inspired to act. And so
Mm,
Resolve wants to make sure that people that connect with us find the support they need,
yeah.
and then also know that we are going to fight for them. But we need people to join that fight with us. And so we look at
Yes.
advocacy in many different ways. First of all, we want to be able for you to advocate for yourself to get the medical care that you need. We want you to be able to advocate for yourself to get the insurance coverage that you need and deserve.
Mm,
We want you to be able to advocate for yourself, whether it's in a relationship with your partner, whether it's with your family and friends, that
mhm.
if you're facing this journey, you are not alone.
Yeah.
So that's how we promote advocacy personally when someone's, really struggling with growing or starting their family. Then there's a whole, what we like to say, inside the Beltway. We all, I live, not far from Washington, D.C. It's kind of
Sure.
inside the Beltway advocacy. And Resolve takes a two-pronged approach to advocacy. We want to fight for pro-family legislation. So
Yeah.
that means making sure gestational carrier surrogacy is legal and
Mm,
available to all. So many people don't realize that there are laws in certain states that ban LGBTQ community from engaging in surrogacy contracts.
sure.
We want to make sure gestational surrogacy is legal. We want to make sure that egg donation is available and sperm donation is available to all. So we look at this pro-family legislation. So we want to fight and create policy
Hmm.
changes that help people have access to the family building options they need.
Yeah.
Then we also fight against anti-family legislation, which
Mm,
a lot of people don't realize that we've been fighting anti-family legislation for over 15 years. This is
wow.
not just a problem that has surfaced since the court ruling in Alabama. It has
Mm-hmm.
been around. but it's getting huge national attention right now. And,
Yeah.
I'd want your listeners to understand that Resolve has a seat at the table, and in many ways are leading the patient advocacy voice in these anti-family um, legislative actions. So we want to make sure that we have as many voices joining us in our advocacy work. And then we also look at changing policies when it comes to employer provided benefits.
Yeah.
So people don't just get benefits because their state mandates it. They also have to get benefits through their employers.
Absolutely.
So we have a coverage at work program where we mentor and coach. It's a free program. Mentor and coach people on how to ask their HR managers for family building
Mm,
benefits. And we don't just want people to get a benefit that helps a little. We want benefits that help in a broader sense. So we've actually created model benefits that include all types of family building. It includes gestational carrier surrogacy. It includes people that need donor embryo, donor sperm. So we really aren't just about what people really hear as like the IVF coverage. We look at a complete um, family building benefits that employers can and should provide.
that's amazing. That's amazing. And I mean, I feel as though just in the short time that I've been in the industry, there's been this evolution of no coverage, some coverage, but only covers me, not if I need a surrogate, or only covers a certain portion. I mean, and that's a huge, I don't think people think about it. People do
Right.
know that it's an expensive process, but it's almost just kind of assumed, well, guess I just have to pay for it out of pocket. It's not, and it is
Right.
a medical need. And
It
that's
is.
amazing that Resolve is so behind it, as well as all of those legislative laws as far as family building and anti-family building and things like that. How can people, what is the best way for anyone to get involved in any parts of those advocacy programs?
We'll definitely connect with Resolve through our website, resolve.org.
Yes. Will
We
be in the show notes.
Okay, great. We have something called the Resolve Advocacy Network, and that is a grassroots network of people just like, your listeners who want to do something, want to take action. We are constantly asking people to send letters and emails to their lawmakers, make phone calls,
Yeah.
join rallies. Like as we're taping this right now, there's a rally happening in Minnesota led by
Mm,
grassroots advocates who are, rallying at their state capitol in an effort to raise awareness about an insurance mandate bill.
yeah.
We need people, helping to introduce laws in their state if they don't have one. We need
Hmm.
people talking to their employers. So all of this is through Resolve. Like we really believe in helping you understand why your story matters, why it's important, and the power of your story.
Yeah.
And we provide training all the time. And so we don't just say you need to do this and then not tell you or support you in the how.
Sure, sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's amazing. And I mean, and I'm sure, like your founder, Barbara, of that time, she felt so alone,
Mm-hmm.
made that connection. And the fact that Resolve is there from the very beginning, no matter where you are in your process, is just amazing. And I'm so grateful to you all for what you do for anybody who is part of that family building struggle. So tell me more about National Infertility Awareness Week and why it is important. How did it even start?
It started in 1989, and it's really grown into a huge moment for this community.
Hmm.
And I've really been honored to have this like front row seat at watching the difference that this week makes.
Yeah.
So Resolve builds the platform. We have a website, infertilityawareness.org, where no matter who you are, if you're a patient, a friend or a family member, a provider, a company that, makes a product that serves this community, there's a way for you to get involved and raise awareness
Yeah.
through social media, through letter writing to your lawmakers, to talking to the media, even. I mean, it is amazing the things that we see happen at the local level where people who are struggling to build their family say, I want to make a difference and I'm going to share my story, and they contact their local media and they're on the 5 o'clock news. And that
Yeah.
is where real change happens. And the goal really is to bring light to the struggles that our community faces,
Mm-hmm.
but also it's a teaching moment. So it's making people realize the information that they need to make important decisions. Uh, we know that people still are not talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
I always hear people like, no one talks about infertility, and I think, my gosh, the people in this community talk about it all the time.
All the time.
So why is that still being said? And I think it's the people who aren't talking about it we have to start paying attention to. So
Yes.
why aren't lawmakers talking about the realities of infertility? Why aren't celebrities, and I never force anybody to share their story. I don't think that that's
Mm.
Resolve's role, but
No.
it is interesting how other disease states or conditions get, the attention. And infertility is something that a lot of people don't talk about until they're past it. And
Yes.
what kind of power do our stories hold while we're going through it? I think is important to kind of think about and reflect. But this used to be something that Resolve would talk about in a printed newsletter, and now we expect morning shows to cover it, and they do.
Yes.
And we have celebrities tweeting about it or posting on Instagram. So it has come a long way. And I think this year it's even more critical that people think
Mm-hmm.
about sharing their stories, because our stories have power, and
Yes.
our stories helped bring IVF treatment back in Alabama because people stood up and said, no one cares about my embryos more than I do. I need this treatment back. I think our stories this week will shed light on what IVF is, who needs it, and how it impacts our lives,
Yes.
as well as other people who maybe aren't pursuing IVF or who need a surrogate, or who are at a point saying, you know what, I might have to walk away and live without children. All of those stories are incredibly important, because when you erase the stigma around something that people, or change people's perceptions,
Mm-hmm.
we have then the power to change policies that are impacting us, and also just change how society views what we all go through.
Yes.
And I think while it we always get asked, why is it only a week? We deserve a month. We deserve 365 days a year.
There it is.
And
Yes.
the strategic thought behind a week is more about the burnout that people feel when they are so motivated to share their story, to have to share it for an entire month. Also, the media, we live in
Yeah, it's a hot cycle. It's there and then it's
season.
gone. Yeah,
Not
absolutely.
everything for a month. So I just encourage everyone to take this week um, as a launching pad for what you can do the rest of the other 51 weeks of the year, because there's always an opportunity to share our story.
Yes, yes. And you're so right. And I think, you said something that was, I just, it's, it's heartbreaking to me. And I understand why it's so much easier to share your story after the fact.
Yep.
It doesn't, it doesn't feel, you know how the story ends. And it's so hard to share when you're in the moment. But when you have all of everybody, this whole community rallying around you, and you hear how important your story is, no matter how it ends, whether it is that happy ending that we all want for everybody, or it ends in a way that you weren't expecting, it's
Yeah.
all so important to every aspect of this. And I love what National Infertility Awareness Week does, and how Resolved supports that, just that vulnerability and that importance of sharing your truth and what you're going through, whether you've done it or in it or starting it. And that is
Yeah.
just, I'm so grateful for that.
Oh, well, thank you. And, we always put out, we call it our disclaimer, that this week is hard. It's your algorithms are filled with infertility awareness. And if you're in a
Yeah.
place that's just too much, we encourage people to take a pause, step
Yeah.
back. Don't feel the force. If you're not ready to share your story, you're not ready to share your story.
Absolutely.
And we don't, fault anyone for that. And we are grateful for those that step up and do. And
Yeah.
every year, the number of people that share their stories increases. And it's,
Mm.
I remember when I first started at Resolve, we could not send emails with infertility in the subject line because we would inevitably get responses of, how dare you? This is my work email. No one knows about this.
Oh, wow.
And it was very eye opening for me. But now we have, thousands and thousands of people walking in walks of hope around the country with,
Yes.
proud egg donor mom, or,
Sure, sure.
gestational carriers for their family, in walks of hope, raising money for Resolve. We have almost 800 people registered for Advocacy Day, which is in May.
Mm.
So that's 800 people sharing their stories with their lawmakers. It is just really, this movement has grown so much, and it's really because of the power of the community and the openness that people have to share their stories.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. How has this personally impacted you?
So when I started at Resolve, I was just married, and I had known a little bit about infertility, and it impacted my husband's family. But I'd already always worked in nonprofit communications. And so this was a great opportunity to work for a cause based
Sure.
organization. And about 18 months after I started at Resolve, my husband and I were trying to get pregnant, and I just knew I had all the information at my fingertips that I knew something wasn't right.
Mm.
And I went to my OBGYN. We confirmed that. And our infertility journey, while it, was 10 plus years in the making, resulted in an IVF pregnancy. We had two failed adoption attempts,
Mm.
um, and a surprise pregnancy that ended. So I have a 16-year-old and a 9-year-old. I'm very, very incredibly grateful for
Mm.
them. I remember when I found out I was pregnant with my daughter, we were at a point where we were resolving as a family of three, and we had
Yeah.
done a lot of work on us. We had, gotten some mental health support. We had talked to our son, and it's really a mind trip what infertility can do to you. Because when I found out I was pregnant, I was angry. I felt like
Wow.
a fraud.
Yeah.
I thought, why? Why now? I had done all this work. We had,
Oh.
and you would think, like, Whitney, you're probably like, oh my gosh, this is what so many people want. How could you be angry?
No. I
But
mean,
like, I
it's
felt like, why was my body okay now, but it hadn't been okay? And it put us through so much
absolutely.
despair. And
Yes.
I remember when I called to tell Barb, it's also, she's my employer, and I said I felt like a fraud. And she was like, I have known you for over a decade. How many pregnancies have you had? And I said, this is my second one.
Mm.
Right. So all of those years of trying, and she's like, trust me, you're infertile. And it's just like so funny to think about now that I had to be convinced, but I get it. Ultimately, finally got a diagnosis of endometriosis
Mm.
after my daughter was born. So yeah, I mean, even, we used to laugh that I was like the poster child for infertility, because I, um, then went on a rampage with my husband's employer, which was the Department of Defense at the time, asking for better coverage because we had, um, uh, and Resolve was very small at the time. So it was only a few people working. So we didn't have
Sure.
the kind of coverage that we do now. But we we had this insane insurance policy that would not cover IVF treatment until I had either experienced 3 miscarriages,
Oh, no. No, no,
right?
no, no.
Which is like
No.
torture.
Yes.
And or like I think 3 years, which my fertility doctor was like, you don't have 3 years to wait. So fortunately, those health plans through the Department of Defense have gotten much better
Yes.
through a lot of hard work by other employees, so and the federal government. But yeah, it's crazy to think that 17, 18 years ago, what we faced. But I had all of the information I needed to advocate for myself, to talk to my
Mm,
doctor, constant support. Um, and I say this lately, like I did share my story a lot.
mm-hmm.
Um, and there were harder times to share it than others,
Yeah.
obviously. Because when you do share your story, your people outside this space can't wait to hear the positive outcome.
Mm,
So you feel the you carry the burden of disappointing people.
mm.
So I think that what the public needs to know is, there's going to be disappointment in this, and you have to support your friends and family going through this, and not put that expectation on them
Yes.
to share every detail.
Yes. I I'm so grateful for you that you are willing to continue to share your story because it is, I mean, gosh, like you said, you had all of that information at your fingertips and you're in it, surrounded by it, have all of that and you still felt those big huge feelings
Oh,
that
absolutely.
of you are absolutely anybody going through this is entitled to feel
Mhm.
however they feel and there
Yeah,
is no wrong answer to that and there shouldn't be judgment. You shouldn't feel like 10 years now to say, oh Whitney, I'm sure that you feel like that's crazy. It doesn't matter what I feel or think.
right.
That was your story. That is your story. And it's
Mhm.
beautiful that you continue to champion all of those that are continuing to and we will forever have this and need those stories and need to hear it isn't always those rainbows and sunshines and like you said the
Yeah.
burden of wanting to give that happy ending. Yours had a beautiful happy ending, but there was the hard and and in the midst of the struggle, the fact that you have to go to an employer and say, I'm sorry, you're telling me I have to do what now in order
Yeah.
for you to pay attention to me?
Yeah.
Like that's, I mean, and you being able to do that, having the knowledge that you had is so important. And the fact that Resolve is giving that to everybody, supporting people no matter where they are, that's huge. And I love the fact that National Infertility Awareness Week gives opportunity for those stories for those who
Mhm.
are going through it and those who are supporting people who go through it no matter where they are. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Absolutely. We need to give a shout out to some of the things that are happening this
Yes.
next week or this week, whenever people are listening
Yes.
to it, April
Yes. Yes.
21st and 27th.
This week.
This
Yes.
week. I think people won't feel alone when they understand that the Empire State Building is being lit orange on April 24th
Oh.
in honor of them. Or there's a boathouse in Philadelphia. There are the entire cityscape of Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh.
We're just hearing every day, we're getting another email like, this is being illuminated. Oh, Niagara Falls. Niagara Falls,
Stop.
both the Canadian side and the US side is
That's amazing.
on Sunday at 10:15. Um, and if it's green, it's the if the illumination is green, the Canadian Infertility Awareness Week or Fertility Awareness Week, their color is green. So we are working in tandem with them.
Oh, I
So
love that.
I think people have to realize that they are not alone. These are going to be symbols of community
Yes.
around the country. There are a lot of people working hard in their communities to get proclamations. So that's when you go to your town or city government and say, can you please acknowledge National Infertility Awareness Week? Those are happening around the country in small towns and big cities. So we're really appreciative of that grassroots effort. And their CVS has donated airtime in their stores to recognizing National Infertility Awareness Week. So if you find yourself in a CVS store and you listen to those announcements that are playing in the
Sure.
background, millions of people will hear that and either will say, "Oh, I know someone going through this," or "I am going through this," and what is resolve.org. So those are the things that I think people in the community need to realize, that there are so many entities and people that are thinking
Yes.
about you this week, that are doing things in your honor, and just making sure you don't feel alone.
I love that. That's so, so amazing. And all of that we're gonna have in our show notes with the email, the web address, and so you can absolutely find out more, and on the socials and just everything. So oh my gosh, that is so amazing. So my final question for you, Rebecca, for anyone who knows me, they know that I have a very codependent relationship with coffee. So I
Yes.
always love, yes, get your cheers, ma'am. So I always love to ask, what filled your cup? Literally, figuratively, what filled your cup this morning?
This morning, well, black coffee.
Yes.
Literally. But this morning. Um, I'm currently writing an email to our board of directors, just giving them an update on National Infertility Awareness Week. And it was getting longer and longer and longer. And that is exciting when I get to share this information with our very dedicated board of directors.
Yes.
So that filled my cup this morning. My daily yoga practice filled my cup because I cannot
Mm.
I cannot move without it. Anybody else with endometriosis knows, or your body's constantly fighting that inflammation. So
Yeah.
yoga is my go-to. And getting to do this with you. I even though my title has external affairs in it, uh, I'm often BTS behind the scenes.
Yep.
So this is wonderful, and I'm so excited to connect with your listeners.
Oh, thank you, Rebecca. I so appreciate your time, especially in the midst of, just all of that is coming up and all that will be. And so and again, we are just so grateful to Resolve for everything you do. And then especially for National Infertility Awareness Week. So thank you so, so, so much for your
Thank you,
time.
Whitney.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Me, You, and Who podcast. We appreciate your time and hope you enjoyed our discussion today. As we wrap, we would like to remind you of some of the ways to stay connected with us and be part of the Me, You, and Who podcast community. Firstly, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode and can stay up to date with our latest content. But that's not all. We also have an exciting YouTube channel where we share some bonus content, behind the scenes glimpses, and video versions of our episodes. Head over to your YouTube channel and hit the subscribe button there as well. And don't forget to click the notification bell so you'll be the first to know when the new episodes go live. For more exclusive updates, engaging discussions, and a chance to connect with fellow listeners, be sure to follow us on our social media accounts. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Egg Donor and at Surrogate Solutions. As a friendly reminder, the podcast is made possible by Egg Donor and Surrogate Solutions. If you're interested in creating a happy family, visit www.createahappyfamily.com to learn more information. Again, thank you for being part of the Me, You, and Who community. Your support means the world to us. Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and join us next time as we share journeys of creating happy